Hey everybody, Eric Grenier here with Philippe J. Fournier for this week's episode of The Numbers. Philippe, how you doing? How you doing today? The Carolina Hurricanes are taking on the Montreal Canadiens tonight. I said before we started chatting that they're going into a buzzsaw, and you scoffed. So you're a believer.
Scoff. Yes, I am. Obviously, anything can happen. It's the NHL. It's the playoffs, and like every team can beat anybody. Like the Vegas Golden Knights beat the Colorado Avalanche last night. But for those who say, "Oh, the Canadiens have no chance," the two teams that the Habs beat, I think, were better than Carolina. So they could lose. The Habs could lose against Carolina, but don't tell me they're going in against a buzzsaw. Like, come on. Like, it's no way. Carolina was in the Metropolitan Division. We have to stop talking about hockey because people are going to tune out. But I could go on. But yes, go Habs, go for tonight and for next week. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, and there's also the World Hockey Championships, which I love every year.
Oh, sure.
Crosby and Celebrini are playing together. That's fine.
That's
nice. So first off, I'm now in the Gaspé, which I'll be for the rest of the summer. And right now, I'm in a room that is a bit echoey, and just because I have to be in a certain place just today. Hopefully, in future episodes, if I do sound a bit echoey, it'll not be like this. So my apologies ahead of time. But we'll power through. So we're going to play a little bit of a game today.
Yes.
We got some federal polls to talk about. We got a new Quebec poll we're going to chat about. We're also going to play another game of buy or sell, which we did back in September.
Yes.
So we'll update on how we did and who made out like a bandit the most. And then we will set our, and then we will decide whether we're going to buy or sell on the parties right now based on where they are in the polls. But let's start first with those polls. It's been a quieter week.
Yeah.
We only had the two tracking polls from Liaison and Nanos nationally that came out. There's two things to talk about here, I think. One is both of these polls showed exactly the same kind of numbers nationally. Yeah. But they're also both a bit down for the Liberals.
Yes.
Compared to where they've been for the last few weeks. So just numbers first, and then you can give me your comments. Liaison, 43% for the Liberals, 34% for the Conservatives, 11% for the NDP. Nanos, 42% for the Liberals, 33% for the Conservatives, and 12% for the NDP. So it's no longer the 45s that we got kind of used to for the Liberal Party.
We have to be careful, as we always remind our listeners, with cause and effect. But it's not like the Carney government has not gone into slippery territory, right? That upcoming deal with Alberta, with Danielle Smith, with a pipeline, and I think some discontent in BC. There's a lot of people in Quebec that, although Mark Carney is still popular here, they look at this as like, okay, so basically we thought you were pro-environment, and now it really looks like you're not. Again, I'm not saying my personal opinion here, but this is the reflection of what we see in the media. And I think these numbers, this softening support for the Liberals, they're still comfortably ahead, right, in those polls. But both set of polls, basically published 1 day apart, show the same tendency, the same trends. Liberal down a little bit. NDP in double digits. We'll see if other polling firms pick that up. Nanos has had the NDP in double digits for quite a while. But you have to think that there's an opening on the center-left for the NDP with the recent behavior of the Carney government. So I think that would be my first thing. And also the approval rating of Mr. Carney. Still positive. He's at plus 20 in Liaison. But not so long ago, it was plus 30. I think it was plus 32 1 month ago. So there's clearly a softening of support and of approval, even though it's still positive and advantageous for the Liberals.
Yeah, that was the kind of an interesting number for me, that Carney's gone down about 6 points in his approval rating over the last few weeks in the Liaison poll. There's two things, though, about this. One, the Nanos poll is, as we discuss very often, a 4-week rolling poll.
Yeah, noisy.
So it isn't exactly a forward-looking indicator. And it was in the field for 4 weeks when we've had lots of polls in the field for the last 4 weeks, right? We can look at the last Leges or Abacuses. They were in the field while Nanos has been in the field because Nanos has been in the field for so long. So when you see a new poll from Nanos that shows a big drop for the Liberals, it could be that the last week was really bad for the Liberals.
Yeah.
Or it could be that 4 weeks ago was a really good week and it dropped
right.
off. So we don't really know these things. So when I do see that the Liberal numbers have dropped in the Nanos poll, and then we also see the same thing kind of happen in Liaison, though it wasn't nearly as dramatic. But a 9-point lead is like the psychological barrier, no longer double digits.
Yeah.
It until we see like a Léger and an Abacus and an Angus Reid and an Ipsos show that kind of thing too, it could just be coincidence because of the 4-week nature of the Nanos poll. But it is something worth keeping an eye on because of the softening that we saw in Liaison for the approval ratings, which can be a forward-looking kind of indicator because sometimes voting intentions follows that. And then the other thing to point out about this is that Conservatives didn't get a bump out of this. Not much at all. For them to be at 33 or 34, I've said it many, many times. 33 and 34 is literally what Aaron O'Toole and Andrew Scheer got in the two previous elections for Pierre.
And it wasn't enough.
And that's not good enough, especially when the Liberals are plus 40.
Yeah.
We've seen such stability in the polls now for so long with that. We see these little movements and we're very like, ooh, maybe something's happening. But the broader picture hasn't changed just yet. It's just whether this is a beginning of a new trend or a little bit of a coincidence or a momentary thing, and that'll be what we'll have to follow in the next few weeks.
Like so, the approval numbers that we just mentioned from Liaison, 56 approval, 36 disapproval. This is down. So a month ago. So this tracker, the middle field date is May 10th. So if we go 1 month, April 12th. It was 62 approval and 29 disapproval. So that's a plus 33. Now it's a plus 20. What's interesting, though, is that when you break down the numbers by region, it's net positive still everywhere, including Alberta, including the prairies. And it's highest in BC. Maybe it's a sample size issue and the highest in BC because I feel like there will be some BC voters who will not be too happy with what's going on. Some will be very happy, but they're voting for Poilievre. So again, this is still very favorable territory for the Liberals, but it's slipping. And the rise in Carney's aura, the second honeymoon, if you will, started with the Davos speech, and then we had the Conservative Convention, and then renewed attacks by Donald Trump and his team. And now we were wondering how long it would last. I think it lasted 4 months. I think we will regress to the mean. And but now the question is, we should have Conservative in the high 30s if the Liberals are to go down. We're not seeing that yet. But perhaps it's coming, but we're not seeing that yet.
Yeah, that's the thing that's kind of interesting about it. Nanos on the preferred prime minister has Carney at 50.5, so still over the 50 mark. And Poilievre's only at 24, so he hasn't really... We've seen him at 28, 29 not too long ago.
Yeah.
And in the liaison poll, there was a 36% favorable opinion of Pierre Poilievre, 51% unfavorable. Again, no real change as Carney has dropped. Poilievre hasn't improved. 36% is generally how low as he gets in the liaison poll.
Yeah.
So we could say that there could be maybe... there could be people moving to the undecided column. There could be people going to the NDP. Yeah. Avi Lewis's approval ratings or favorability ratings in the liaison poll, 28 favorable, 23 unfavorable. He keeps on decreasing his don't knows, but his positives and his negatives are generally increasing at the same rate. So it's not clear that he's it's not clear that he's actually like making an impact beyond just getting better known, which is obviously a good thing for him in that sense. But we have, the NDP being at 11 or 12 in Nanos or Liaison might be a point or two higher than we've seen him a couple of weeks ago. But we've seen them there before. There's nothing new there.
No, there's nothing new, and there's no Lewis bump. He was chosen by the membership. It was in late March. We were there in Winnipeg, and from late March now we are in mid-May. I remember delegates at the NDP convention asking me, "How long do you think it'll take till we see an effect?" And I remember saying around the middle of May. So give him 6 weeks, a full month of Nanos tracker, but perhaps a new Léger. There's no bump for the NDP. There's still an opening. It could still happen. I think the NDP base in this country for past 60 years has been around 15%. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. To have them in single digit is abnormal. But even if the NDP stays at 11%, that's that's still a terrible result. Historically, it's still a terrible result. They'll take it. They just had 6.3%. But yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that tracker for the approval. If it keeps going down and Mr. Carney goes back to having a near net neutral approval, then we'll say, okay, so this aura of the winter has vanished, and now he's into the hard part of governing. It's like when you're not seen as the hero of the nation or something. So.
Mm-hmm. And if these kinds of numbers kind of hold for a little bit longer, I wonder if anybody's still making the argument that maybe they should go early to try to take advantage of the poll number starts to go away, because if the Liberals drop into the low 40s, it doesn't take much to drop into the high 30s, and then suddenly their majority is out the window anyway. So,
are people still saying that though, Eric? Are people still saying that?
I still hear them now and then, but
they have a majority. Why would they go early?
Because they want a bigger one.
Oh, come on. Okay.
All right, so we're going to play our buy and sell game.
That's right.
So this is what we did back in September. So the idea behind this is that you look at where the polls are for each of the parties and the leaders, and you look at whether you think that they are overvalued or undervalued. So, for example, if we think that the support for the Conservative Party will rise in the next few months, we would say that them being at 35% in the latest 338 Canada update would be undervaluing them. So what we did in September 2025 is that we played this game assessing of how under or overvalued each of the parties and leaders were compared to where they would be at the end of the year. So in mid-December 2025. We haven't updated that since we played that game. I updated it yesterday, and I went through it. And I came out ahead. I came out richer for the game. I made $4 and Philippe lost $2. I don't know if that makes any sense. But we actually didn't see a lot of movement. For example, in September 2025, the Liberals were at 43%. At the end of the year, they're at 42%. I had sold the Liberals, so I made $1. That's what that means. Philippe had held the Liberals, which means he had lost $1.
That's right.
We hadn't seen any movement for the Conservatives over that time. For the NDP, the Bloc went up a little bit. And we hardly saw any movement for Carney and Poilievre on the best prime minister number for the Nanos poll. But when all was said and done, I came out a little bit further ahead than Philippe. So I'm going to see if I can invest my $4 extra and make some more money going forward. So anyway, we're going to play this game again. We're going to use the 338 Canada update that you did just a few days ago, and we're going to use the latest Nanos poll for best prime minister, and we're going to buy or sell the 4 major parties, the 3 major leaders, and we're looking towards when Parliament returns in September. Okay. So, will the summer be good or bad for each of these party leaders? Do you understand the game, my friend?
Yes, I do. You made out like a bandit last time, $4, and I lost 2, so I really want to get back to it. It's just that with what we discussed, some of these calls sound like easy or sound obvious, but perhaps you want to play a 3 or 4D chess here. So let's start.
Okay. So why don't we start? We'll start actually for the parties. Let's start from the bottom up, and we'll go with let's go with the Bloc first.
Okay.
So the Bloc Québécois right now in the 338 Canada update was at 27% in Quebec.
Yeah.
That's not much difference. They were at 29% when we did this in September 2025, so they lost a little bit of a step. But if we're looking at the Bloc at 27%, and we're thinking about whether they'll be higher or lower by the time we get to the return after the summer, are you buying or selling at for the Bloc Québécois at 27 in Quebec?
So I would think that if Quebec voters follow the Canadian trend of perhaps the Liberals, their support will soften up a bit. You would think that some of these voters will naturally go to the Bloc because they did in the opposite way in 25, right? Some Bloc voters, or traditionally Bloc voters, lent their vote to Carney and the Liberals. So my knee-jerk reflex would be to go, okay, I'm going to buy for the Bloc because I think they're going to go up. But there's a Quebec election coming, and I'm not sure the PQ is helping the Bloc at all. And the promise of referendum and M. Plamondon, whose numbers have been lukewarm of late. And I feel like holding at 27 would be a bit like chicken. So I'm going to sell some block stock. I think 27 is a bit high. I expect it to be in the mid-20s in the fall. How about you, my friend?
And the Quebec election, it kind of hangs over it.
Yes, it
as
does.
we'll talk later, the PQ is at 30% in the newest Léger poll. So you could imagine that if the two supporter bases overlap a lot, that you could imagine the PQ going up. I think I can see the argument for selling. But it does feel to me like this has been kind of their floor, that it's hard to see them go down from
That's
27 at the moment. And I think that in the course of the summer, maybe things will get worse for the Parti Québécois, but maybe not. Maybe they'll actually get a little bit more energy as the campaign approaches, and maybe that'll boost the little block a little bit. So I'm gonna buy on the block for the summer, and I think at the end of it, they might end up being a little bit higher than 27%. So,
and if I may just add a little something here to this scenario, because we didn't talk about it since the episode started, but there's a lot of crap unfolding in Alberta right now. We don't have, like, we had some fresh numbers on independence in Alberta, but they basically said the same thing that we have seen for many months. And so the situation right now is unfolding. It seems that, there will be a referendum on secession in Alberta in October, which means that the referendum campaign will coincide with the Quebec campaign, the Quebec election campaign. I'm not sure if that's going to help the Quebec sovereigntists to have these stories coming out of the West. Perhaps it will. Perhaps the feds will really step in it. We know they can do it. We know they have done it in the past, right? But this is something to consider. That we don't know which way it's going to go, but we'll see.
Yeah, another little bit of a wild card over the summer. Okay, how about the NDP?
Yeah,
9% in your latest update. Lewis has been traveling the country. He's not tied down to that seat in Ottawa, that thing that nobody wants. So he's around the country gallivanting with New Democrats.
Yeah.
Do you think that will have a positive impact on support for the NDP or not?
So last time we did this, the NDP was at 8, and I held. And basically, the price never changed. So I think holding should have gained me a little something here because it didn't go up or down. I don't know. I see the polling, and we have double digit from Nanos and Liaison, but maybe we are just days removed from a Léger poll or Abacus poll that has them at 7, and then it resets, right? So I think my natural tendency would be to buy because they should go up, but I have no confidence that they will. It's just that I don't think they can go down that much. But yeah, we said that during the campaign how many times, Eric, right? So I will buy NDP. I think I could make $1 or $2, but I'm not very confident here. I feel like holding, but I'm going to buy. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to buy as well.
Okay.
For this reason, you mentioned it earlier, Carney has made a few more moves towards, let's say, the center, especially when it comes to the environment. You could say the right as well on some of these things. There was a story that I saw just last night having to do with kind of rules related to the right to strike and these kinds of things. So it does seem like they're very comfortable heading in that direction.
Yeah.
And I think that we could see, especially if we see some opposition in BC, David Eby seemed to be okay with things after the meeting. It wasn't clear. It seemed like he would have reason not to be. But if we do see more criticisms from David Eby, for example, who is a New Democratic premier in the place where the NDP has a lot of its support is in BC, then maybe I could imagine that they jump up to 15, 17 in British Columbia, and that bumps them up a point or so in the rest of the country as well. So I will buy for the NDP, but again, I think I'm only making $1 or $2 at most.
Okay. Eric, the Conservatives. As you know, my tracker does have a little bit, it's tiny, but of house correction because of the past few elections, especially the last one, where polls underestimated Conservatives. Not by much, but they all did. So right now, my average is at 35. So at the end of the summer, at the fall equinox, do you think, because it's going to be the fall equinox, right? Yeah, around that time. Do you think the Conservatives will go higher or lower? Do you buy on the Conservatives or do you sell? You bought twice now, so you can't buy everybody.
I think I would sell.
Really?
The Conservatives just feel a little listless lately. Poilievre has been putting out some stuff on social media, and it just feels like he's fallen off.
Yeah.
The discussion, the radar, like it almost seems like people aren't even interested in whether his leadership's in trouble anymore.
Yeah.
It just does not feel like he's getting much traction. And like we said, we saw these two polls from the Liaison and Nanos that had the Liberals down, and the Conservatives were still sub 35.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to drop much more. I do think that they have a floor, and they're very close to it. But I can't see them. Well, I'm not going to say I can't see them, but I have trouble seeing them getting to 36, 37 on average. So I can imagine a 33 or 34 by the end of the summer, especially if the NDP, and I said the Bloc, is going up. So that kind of makes some internal sense. So I will sell on the Conservatives. I'm just not feeling it for them right now.
I don't necessarily disagree. But it feels like there's a lack of enthusiasm right now, and I think it's the reaction from 1 year after the election, we did lose. The realization that you lost the election. Now the Carney has a majority. We could have an election in October 29. And what you said about the post on social media, I had the same feeling at the Canada Strong and Free conference. It's which should be very Poilievre friendly. And really wasn't. It was lukewarm at best for Poilievre. But it still feels that Conservatives have the highest base, the highest floor, right? And it feels like this enthusiasm could be back after a summer. I'm not sure I'm buying what I'm saying, but I think 35 is a bit low for the Conservatives, so I will buy on the Conservatives. Maybe at 37, 38 on average at the end of summer, we'll see.
Woof, 38, they take that right now, I got to say. But I think that there's one, like you mentioned it as well when it came to Quebec, the Alberta referendum stuff.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword for Pierre Poilievre, right? I think that he knows that his own base, which is concentrated in Alberta, we've seen polling in Alberta that federal Conservatives are roughly half in favor of sovereignty and half aren't. Yeah. So he does have some... does seem to have some discomfort in wading too deeply into it, but it's been mentioned a lot. Jean Charest really helped his image in the 95 Quebec referendum, especially in the rest of the country, by being a bit of a Captain Canada. There's an opportunity for Pierre Poilievre to do the same thing here in a way that I don't think Mark Carney can do with the same level of like not illegitimacy or legitimacy, because he grew up in Alberta, but he's a Liberal, represents an Ottawa riding and lived in Ottawa. He seems like more of a global kind of person rather than an Albertan. Whereas Poilievre is also, grew up in Alberta, but now he represents a riding in Alberta, and everybody knows that his base is in Alberta. So if he came out strongly in favor of Canada, then I could see that gives him a lift in Ontario and Nova Scotia and BC. But we haven't really seen much effort in that direction yet, so I don't know if he's going to go that way. Once an actual referendum is on the table, it might be by the time you're listening to this, then that maybe he'll change his tune. But that's an opportunity there. But if he fails to wade in, that's when I see that you could see him drop even further in Ontario. Yeah,
I see. And in BC as well. Let's not forget, they had 40% in BC. And I don't see, there's no support for, remember when there was, what was it, the Maverick Party that tried to have all 4 provinces in the West? And there's no support for separation in BC. It's not happening. So double-edged sword is the right word for Monsieur Poilievre here. Okay, Eric, the Liberals. Now, there's an obvious answer here if we take the short term. Now, my average was 46%. It was mostly buoyed by Abacus, and Léger had 48 for the Liberals. And Nanos, until this week, had 45, 46 on a consistent basis over the past few weeks. But we have 2 trackers that have gone to 42 and 43. So it seems that at least next week and maybe the next one, Liberals will go down. The question is, fall equinox, will the Liberals be higher or lower? Will you buy on the Liberals at 46, or have they reached a ceiling and you want to sell?
I mean, I would probably be most comfortable saying hold, but as you said, I feel that is a coward's way out.
You can.
You held many times in September.
Yes, I did.
I did not. Yeah, I know. It's just to buy means that we could see them at 47 or 48 on average at the end of the summer. I just find hard to fathom, because on average, that means you got to start seeing some 50s. Once in a while. So I think I'm going to sell. I think that we've seen some leading indicators that suggest Carney's popularity might be dropping a little bit. Not enough that he's in any danger, but enough that we could start seeing more regularly in the low 40s rather than the mid 40s. So I think this is the obvious play, and maybe that makes it the wrong one. But I guess I will sell. I will sell with 46% for the Liberals.
Like a friend of mine last night, I play hockey on Wednesday nights, and he said, "Oh, Kane's in 4." I was like, just get lost in the woods, man. Like, just no, it's too easy to say that. Okay, I will sell on the Liberals, and yes, it is the easy one. It's not because of those 2 recent polls. Is that I think 46% is not sustainable in our system. It doesn't happen. It's abnormal. It's not supposed to happen. Even if it was 44, I know the Liberals had 44% of the vote in the election. At 44, I would still sell, because there naturally has to be a leveling off at some point. We just don't know when it's going to be. We'll see how it goes this summer. And perhaps, again, we go back to the Alberta referendum, or referenda, if M. Poilievre falters and M. Carney goes over there calmly and states his case for Canada, perhaps he's going to go up. But it's just, I'm playing the odds here, and I think a leveling off, a lowering of their support is just the natural course of time. So I will sell on the Liberals.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we're going to move to the 3 National Party leaders, Carney, Poilievre, and Lewis. That seems unfair. 3 parties with multiple seats.
That's right.
In the House of Commons, and who run candidates in every riding across the country. So we're going to use the Nanos poll. We did this last time. So the latest one for Nanos, let's do it in reverse order now. We'll start with Carney.
Yep.
He was at 50.5. We'll round up to 51. Would you buy or sell Mark Carney at 51 on the Prime Minister? Now, we had it as one of our over-unders. Would he drop below 50? He's been pretty stubbornly above 50 for the last year. So would you sell or buy?
I think I'm going to... I mean, it would make no sense for me to say buy with what I just said with the Liberals. But again, when you put the leaders face to face right now, there's still... I mean, Carney benefits from having Poilievre in front of him, right? The comparison with Poilievre, Carney has benefited. I mean, for those who don't disagree with me, I'm just going with the numbers. I'm just going with polls. So I think I'm going to do the chicken thing, and I'm going to hold on Carney. I think 51 seems to be like an equilibrium, and I don't think it's going to move that much, so I will go risk-free and hold on Carney.
I mean, I could hedge and buy, and that way if I lose on the Liberals, I could gain on Carney. But I do feel like, as you said, with the Liberal support, it is not that sustainable. I just wonder if Poilievre flatlines over the summer, you might have, he might lose support to undecideds and maybe some to the Liberals, and I don't know. Maybe you could have lots of different things that could play out. And you do wonder if the Alberta referendum campaign has the chance to give stature to Carney if he's already clearly making moves to try to head it off. But I think I'm still going to sell. I think that it seems hard to believe that he could still be plus 50 after a year and a half nearly in office. So I'm going to sell. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up still being 53 or something. Yeah.
Like, again, you have to bank on other leaders, such as Mr. Lewis, to go back up. And Mr. Lewis is at 5 right now. Hang on, we have to do Poilievre first. Sorry, I was going to do Lewis, but we have to do Poilievre first. So
we can do Lewis first. Why not? Let's do Lewis and then Poilievre.
We can do Lewis. you have to imagine that it's going to be higher than 5. He just got there, and his notoriety, positive or negative, will just at least increase those numbers. Now, the NDP is not a threat right now to the Liberals, so his favorables could go up, but that doesn't mean he would get votes as or support as best prime minister or best candidate for prime minister. I mean, 5 feels incredibly low, so it would be, I think, foolish to sell, but I'm not sure if I want to buy that much stock here. So I will buy, but I bought for the NDP. Yes, I bought for the NDP. I will buy for Lewis because I don't think 5 is nearly close to what a normal NDP leader gets. But will he be at 12 or 15 by the end of summer? I would be surprised.
I think I'll hold. I think I'll hold at 5. I don't think I can sell because I don't think he can go down. But one thing to remember is that with that question, it is kind of before the removal of undecideds, right?
Yeah.
So for the NDP, if they're at 10, among the broader electorate, that means they're at 7 or 8. So for Lewis just to be a couple points behind it is not that unlikely. For him to be above 10, he would have to be getting people from other parties supporting him as best prime minister. So we saw him dip to 3, and then he goes back up to 5. And I think that the NDP is still going to be struggling to. I did buy. But I mean, like I said, I think I'd make a buck or two. So I can imagine that Lewis might not get a lift over the summer. And I think especially during the summer. I said that he's touring the country. He's going to be speaking to New Democrats. There's not going to be lots of media going out to Moose Jaw or wherever to go see his speech. So he might not get a lot of play. And the media generally, like people, takes vacation over the summer. So they're not going to give a lot of time to a traveling NDP leader. So yeah, I'll hold at 5. I think that's probably the floor, and maybe he's at it, and he'll need to. I think he needs a seat. I think that would help, but
it would help. It would help.
But I'm going to hold at 5 for Lewis.
But there's no seat. There's no seat available coming. It's right. There's no opening. One NDPer would have to leave, and even then, I think it would be risky. But anyway, okay. Finally. Monsieur Poilievre right now is at 24. Now, when we did this last fall, Poilievre was at, 26? And he ended up at 28? Is that right?
Opposite.
He was at 28 and he ended up at 26. Okay. And I bought on this. I bought at Poilievre at 28. Oh, God. What was I thinking? Okay, 24. Here's the thing. Again, the Alberta referendum. I know I'm going back to this. This is with the Quebec election, this is going to be the event politically in Canada. And I feel like at some point, some of his caucus, with 50 seats in Ontario that he has, would have to say, dude, you have to be Captain Canada. You have to defend the Confederation, even if it's imperfect, even if it's with all its flaws, it's worth defending. If so, you would have to think that he would stop hanging out with. He would not bend to separatists like Madame Smith is doing. Now, if you are a separatist and you listen to this, I'm not slagging you, but Madame Smith knows that separation in Alberta is not popular, but she's trying to save her own butt by giving in to them. So I will buy on Poilievre just because of this, because I kind of have expectation that his caucus will say, if you don't defend Canada right now, you're out. We will find somebody else who will. But maybe they won't. We'll see. But I'm buying on Poilievre. I think 24 is low.
I'm going to sell.
Yeah?
Yep. I just feel like he feels like a bit of a lame duck. Not that I think he won't be the leader next time, but he has the air of a lame duck, that no one's really listening to him that much. And he, in a majority situation, the opposition leader is in such a crappy spot, right? Yeah. It doesn't really, they do the things in the House, but there's less of an urgency to their role. And I do think that he's shown that he's not that interested in getting in on the Alberta stuff. Because even when he talks about it, he says how the grievances are legitimate. or that he understands the grievances and these kinds of things, which is not a message that's going to play well in Ontario. So yeah, I could see that he's been stuck at this kind of level. And like we said, he was at 28 in September. Now he's at 24, and we've seen him in the low 20s. So yeah, I think that the summer is probably going to be hard for him as well, because like I said, opposition leader is not going to get a lot of airtime during the summer, and he could kind of drift away as a, oh, he's still there, like kind of thing, right? So yeah, I'm going to sell. Not that I think he's going to be at 17 or anything like that, but I think I can make a couple bucks. I think I can.
A point of order here. Let's just say, hypothetically, that Poilievre gets the boot this summer.
Selling him was a great idea then.
So you make like $24 because he would be at 0. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, wow. Okay. That would end the game, basically. I don't think it's going to happen this summer.
Take my cash and go home.
All right. Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. Interestingly, when we did it last fall, not much moved.
No, it's true.
It feels far more volatile now. Now, if we had compared it to where things were now, the Liberals are up a few points. Conservatives is down a lot. There's been a lot of movement over the last 8 months, but
it's been in the winter.
We'll see if there's going to be any more over the next 4. And I think we'll accumulate. So I'm going to hold on to my $4. You gotta get your $2 back.
That's right. I'm in the red here.
So anyway, we'll see. We'll update in the fall. All right. We'll end with the Léger poll. Now we put out an episode of Les Chiffres. So if you're can speak French or want to practice. You can go listen to that. We went deep dive into the poll, but we'll do a little bit more of a Coles Notes of the numbers here. Philippe, I'm sure you've been talking about it all week, so why don't you take it from here?
So listen, we mentioned this. This is an election in Quebec with no recent precedent. The leader has 30%. It's the Parti Québécois. It's leading among francophones. It's leading in the regions. It's doing okay in Quebec City, but it's still only 30% of the vote. The Liberals 28%. The CAQ seems to be back now. We don't know if it's a sugar high, but the latest Léger poll has the CAQ up 5 points to 22%. This is the best poll for the CAQ in the last year. I think they had a 20% in May 25. And it was still bad then. So the CAQ may not be completely dead. It may, as we said last week, it may have a pulse. Now the numbers are in flux, so it would be very imprudent to just assume that, okay, this is now the state of Quebec politics. I will bet you that $1 or $2 that next month the numbers are going to be completely different. We'll see. But it seems that Mme. Fréchette has been able to at least inspire some Quebecers, because the satisfaction number is up in Quebec. They have been down in very poor numbers, very poor territory for many years with François Legault. And now she has a net satisfaction of plus 13. So it's a big movement. And we'll see where it goes. We should have another round of Quebec polling in June, before the summer break and before the insanity of the campaign. But this could get much, much weirder, my friend, according to these latest numbers. What did you see in the Léger poll? What struck your eye?
Well, it's that we've seen a lot of movement, as you mentioned, that's been good for Christine Fréchette. The satisfaction numbers just kind of flipping versus where they were when François Legault was there. The poll found that, Quebecers think that she seems to be doing a good job over her first few weeks. There's very little opposition. The satisfaction numbers showed that there was only a very small percentage of Quebecers who said they were really unsatisfied. And we've seen a little bit of a lift for the CAQ in terms of its support, up to 22%, but not as much as you might think when your satisfaction numbers dissatisfaction dropped by 33 points over a few months. You might expect to get more than a 5-point bump. So I think that that's kind of an interesting factor that shows that there's room to grow for the CAQ if they can manage it. But also there is still a little bit of reticence. So it just kind of means that this election is still going to be really hard to predict. Now, as you've said in the podcast and you've said before, with these kinds of numbers, the PQ would be favored to win because they lead among francophones by significant margin. But it's now at the point where it only needs to move a little bit for things to completely flip. I'm sure, if you do a projection based on just the Léger numbers, not the other, we saw, 18, 19% for Palace and Synopsis last week.
Yeah.
There'd be a huge number of seats that are being like 3-4 races with margins of 5 to 10 points. Anything could happen in those. And so you're going to have these like margins of seat projections that are going to be, CAQ could win 15 seats plus or minus 20.
Yeah, that's right.
They could get minus 5 seats, but it's going to be a crazy race like that if these kinds of numbers hold. And that's the big question over the next few months. Things have been in such an amount of flux for the last little while. CQ has its new leader. The Liberals got a new leader. There's the all the kind of pressure that's been on the PQ about whether they still want to push forward with referendum as their main kind of platform plank, which they do. They're going to, but what impact it's going to have. Like this is a heck of an election. If you're in Quebec, if you're outside of Quebec, there's some implications. But just as a an elections enthusiast, this one's one to watch.
29% support for independence in that Léger poll. Basically the same number we have seen. It's down 3 points from last month, but last month was up 3 points compared to the previous month. So it's fluctuating around that 30% mark, which coincides with PQ support. There's no appetite for this. The PQ and their supporters really want it. The enthusiasm is there among them. It's just that they haven't been able to. We haven't seen a 38 or 40 in a long time. And I was told that it's because we don't talk about it that support sovereignty is not up. We've been talking about it a lot, and it hasn't moved. It hasn't gone down, but it hasn't gone up either. This is gonna be a tough one, and I wonder if during the campaign, the other parties, the Federalist quote-unquote party, will press the PQ on this, because the PQ will try to avoid the subject, as they should. It's not a popular idea, but asking what will be the question, what will be the timeline, what will be the strategy, what is the day one issue. Like, the PQ has a plan, but it looks like every time the plan is more exposed, they get in trouble. Because it's complicated, because it's uncertain, and people don't like uncertainty. It's going to be a tough campaign, but we'll talk more. We'll have to do an over/under of this when we get closer to the campaign. And one of the numbers that I have in mind, I'm going to give you a spoiler here. Let's say the CEQ is not at 22 next month, but let's say 24 or 25, and we have a triple tie. My over/under will be, what is the highest number of seats won by a party? Remember 07, Jean Charest? 48 seats. That's it. We could have a scenario where the winner is in the 40s in number of seats, and nobody's close to a majority. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Don't sit on this election. I feel like I sometimes when I listen to discussions in the rest of Canada, they haven't changed the priors that... this is going to be a big smashing PQ win with a referendum around the corner. Hold your horses. Might not be there just yet.
May not be there, yeah.
All right, number of the week. I'm going to go first.
Okay.
So my number of the week, if I can get this. Or wait, no, I got to count. Do I? No, okay. My number of the week is 20. 20 is the number of MPs the Liberals have in British Columbia. And I'm curious to see how this is going to play out over the next little while. Changing the environmental regulations when it comes to the carbon price, or the price on the industrial carbon price, the deal with Alberta to get a pipeline, sort of the language that we heard from our Carney talking about British Columbia more or less having to get on board, or if not, maybe some other projects won't get some funding. Really interesting to see. It's a big part of their coalition, a bigger part than it used to be. And it could be, in my own projections, I have the Liberals winning, I think, 25, 27,
Me too.
29 seats in BC right now. That's a big chunk. They can afford to lose them, but, once nothing happens in isolation. So anyway, BC, I think, and Liberal support there. Something to watch for a little while, and I'm sure a lot of those 20 Liberal MPs are kind of nervously watching as well.
My number of the week, I mentioned it just minutes ago, is the 29% support for independence in Quebec, which is in the same waters, in the same territory as support for independence in Alberta. These are not popular ideas. That doesn't mean they don't have some merit. I understand. You said that Poilievre says, I understand grievances. Yeah, that's part of the equation. You have to say that. And there are some stuff that is entirely legitimate. But holding a referendum and then just hoping for the best, and thinking there won't be consequences is absolutely insane. Now the PQ wants to have consequences. They want to have this. But which camp will Danielle Smith and her UCP party campaign for? They don't need to do this. So if the referendum happens and it's 70-30, then what? I don't know. I really wonder if they are thinking this through. But if the sovereignty, if separation of Canada was 55-45, it seems like I would understand it more. Not that I would agree or disagree, but I would understand it more. But right now it looks like it's going to be 75-25. Why the hell do that? But we'll see. We'll see. Numbers could change.
Get 300,000 people to sign a petition. That's all you need to do. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
To make a decision for a province of many millions. But anyway, this is democracy in action. That'll be it for this week. And we're going to follow this campaign. As we're recording now, I do believe there are supposed to be some sorts of announcements coming from Danielle Smith regarding the referendum. It seems maybe they could end up going with that Forever Canada petition, where it's should Canada remain or should Alberta remain in Canada. So either way, it does seem like this vote's going to happen, and that's going to be, as you said, the big thing, I think, to watch this year, especially at the national level. Obviously, in Quebec, a lot of eyes focused on that election, and our eyes will be focused on it as well. So anyway, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can go to thenumberspod.ca. You get ad-free early access to all the episodes, and we're going to have a bonus episode. I think we're going to do one next week. Probably a mailbag, I'm thinking. So if you are a member, look out for that call for questions and get your questions in, and we'll answer them in our special episode next week. Philippe, I'm going to wish you a good weekend. And as always, we've been saying now, we keep saying it because it keeps happening, but go Habs go. We'll see if we can manage to pull it off. And congratulations as well to the Montreal Victoire for winning the Walter Cup. So anyway, ça sent la coupe in Montreal.
Ça sent la coupe.
Both cups, why not? I think that would be pretty fun.
Give me Canadian Nordiques in the final, please. All right. Have a good weekend, tout le monde. Merci beaucoup, Eric. Merci, everybody. Have a great weekend.